What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching The Couch. It's week 12 of fantasy football. This past week in the NFL, 8 teams scored 10 points or less. Low-scoring NFL teams resulted in low-scoring fantasy teams. Running backs LeGarrette Blount and Ben Tate were cut from their respective teams. And Adrian Peterson has been suspended at least the remainder of the season, but has a chance to still play Sunday. For this video, we're going to start off by going over the Twitter question of the week, give Mr. Bylowski a report card, reveal over 60 waiver wire pickups, players to drop, and a question for you at the end. Before we take our journey to Twitterland, I want to let you guys know that I'm opening backup signups for my VIP waiver wire list. Click right here, or better yet, follow the link below in the description. Go there, sign up, and you'll get my weekly waiver wire list, where you'll get the waivers before the video comes out and before anybody else does. Make sure you guys do that. Let's go to Twitter. This week we have 2 questions. If you want your week 13 or rest of the season question answered on the next video, make sure you use the hashtag AskTheBrain. Katie asks, is it time to start playing Tannehill over Stafford? Hashtag AskTheBrain. Okay, Katie, for week 12, this is a real tough one. This is a coin toss right here, a 50-50 between Tannehill and Stafford. I would go with Stafford. Stafford has more potential to put up more passing yards, and Golden Tate can break off for a big run, and Megatron could get that deep ball. So I would start Stafford this week, but like I said, it is a 50-50. You can make a great argument to start Tannehill. Now for the rest of the season, week 13 and beyond, I'm definitely going with Stafford. I think Megatron will have great games, and Stafford has better matchups. So rest of the season, Stafford. This week, I'd also go with Stafford. Justin asks, should I drop Reggie Bush and pick up Jonas Gray? PPR league. Hashtag AskTheBrain. In short, yes. You really don't want to drop Reggie Bush in a PPR league. If you were to measure how much you don't want to drop Reggie Bush, it would be up to here. But how much you want to pick up Jonas Gray? Up to here. So if Reggie Bush is your worst player on your team, then you have to do it. Do whatever it takes to pick up Jonas Gray. Now let's visit some previous names Mr. Bylowski gave us in his buy low candidates. Keenan Allen was only averaging 3 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks of the season, and ever since then he's been averaging twice as many fantasy points. Let's give that a C+ because Keenan Allen did a lot better, but let's face it, in non-PPR leagues, he's not a great wide receiver to start. Mike Evans turned from a wide receiver 3 flex play into an elite wide receiver 1. That's an A+++++++. And Frank Gore's production has increased by 40% since week 3. He's not the type of back to wow you, but he's a decent RB2, and the Niners have been using him more often. I'd grade that a B-. I still like the idea of targeting Rivers and Breeze in trades, mainly because you can get these guys for cheap. Their value is just not that high right now. I'm really high on Stafford as a buy low candidate. He has great matchups coming up, and I see him having huge games weeks 13 through 16. Also, his value is low. You don't have to trade too much to get him. Kelvin Benjamin, now that window has closed. You should have bought low when I told you before. I mean, when Mr. Bylowski told you before. Now that he's wide receiver 1 status, you're not going to be able to get him for cheap. Now let's go through these 60 waiver wire pickups. A quick reminder, the teams on bye this week are the Panthers and Steelers. This is the last bye week of the season. The number 1 criteria I use to rank these waivers is how you should put in your waiver order to get a win this week. It's a must win for a lot of teams out there. Second criteria is for the rest of the season. So a lot of these pickups will be great this week, and you can also keep them for the remainder of the season. There should be a decent amount of offense in this Chicago versus Tampa Bay game. That's why I like Jay Cutler and Josh McCown this week. Ryan Tannehill may have to throw the ball quite a bit against the Broncos. I think Mark Sanchez is still a really good quarterback. Don't worry, because in week 11 he faced the Green Bay Packers. They're playing great as of late. They put Clay Matthews in that middle linebacker spot, and they've been just on fire at home. So I see Mark Sanchez bouncing back, having a really good game. Now Flacco against the Saints, that's a tough one to predict right there, because if they can run the ball against the Saints, he may not need to throw it that much. I don't think Orton can be trusted. I don't think Michael Vick could be trusted, but if you're in a deep league or a dual quarterback league, I really like these 4 guys, Hoyer, Mallett, Mettenberger, and Bridgewater. Okay, for running backs, the top 4 guys on this list are must pickups. And Alfred Blue is a must handcuff, as well as Niall Davis. And in slightly deeper leagues, Charles Sims is a great pickup, as well as Bryce Brown, especially in PPR leagues. And going on to deeper formats, 14-man, 16-man leagues, Daniel Herron's a great pickup. Juwan Thompson is a great stash on the bench. Roy Helu, of course, he's good in PPR. And Latavius Murray's a great sleeper for the remainder of the season. And DeAnthony Thomas can be a sneaky start this week. For wide receivers, Josh Gordon is likely owned in all competitive leagues, but because of that slight chance you're in a shallow league and he may still be on waivers, I put him on this list. Jordan Matthews, that's a must pick up. Cecil Shorts is a guy I'm really excited about. I'd say he's a must pick up in PPR leagues and a great wide receiver stash in almost every format. Jarvis Landry is a guy I mentioned quite a bit and I was really high on him. And Kenny Britt, he's the #1 wide receiver on the Rams, which kind of by default puts him on the waivers. Not a guy I'm too excited about, but like I said, he's #1. With Brandon Cooks out, Kenny Stills becomes a great pickup. And if you're in deeper formats, look for Caldwell, Adams, Charles Johnson on the Minnesota Vikings, and Marquise Lee. For tight ends, Coby Fleener is going to be the #1 tight end to pick up this week. Make sure you check up on the status of Dwayne Allen. Heath Miller is a really good pickup, but remember he is on bye, so he's not going to help you out for this week. And a really sneaky start, a guy with tons and tons of upside this week. And yes, I'm a little excited about this one. Austin Seferian-Jenkins going up against the Bears. This is a great sneaky start. I like him a lot this week. Let's just keep it at that. And if you're in a deep league, check up on the injury status of Julius Thomas. He may miss a week or two, and John Carlson makes it on here again as only a deep league pickup. My top 6 defense pickups this week are the Chiefs going against the Raiders. I think they could be the #1 defense this week. The Colts going up against the Jags. The Packers going up against Minnesota. Now, those 3 defenses are likely picked up. But a defense that surprisingly is not picked up in many leagues are the Rams. That's a good pickup for short term and long term. And for a couple sneaky plays this week, I have the Jets and the Cowboys. If you're looking for a kicker, I like Phil Dawson, Dan Carpenter, and Billy Cundiff in that order. And in really deep leagues, I like the Chiefs kicker and the Bears kicker. You can go ahead and drop Bradshaw. He's out. He's done for the rest of the season. Brandon Cooks will miss significant time. You can drop him. Clay Harbor, you can likely drop him as well. And make sure you guys check up on the injury status of these following players on the Broncos: Emmanuel Sanders, Julius Thomas, Ronnie Hillman, Monte Ball. All those guys got hurt. Now I have a question for you. Hey, Josh Gordon's coming back, but there's a dilemma. If you had Mike Evans and Josh Gordon on your team, which one would you start? Leave a comment below. Let me know who would you start for week 12, Mike Evans or Josh Gordon. And that's all the time we have for this week. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to my VIP waiver wire list, and check out fantasycouch.com for all your fantasy football, basketball, and baseball needs. I'll catch you guys on the next video. New video every Tuesday.